How are you? Welcome to Critical Moves of Telesur. Well, as if it wasn't enough of all of the problems that Morocco has spilt on the Sahrawi people, now they see on their coast, and here comes the historical conflict. What is behind the fact of what's going on there? Why is they keep up with the same attitude forever? Who are the third parties involved of this with different interests? This is what we're going to be speaking about. Let's begin. Let's see what are the arguments, both the Moroccans and the Spanish, as well as those of the Sahrawi people. After they approved, the Moroccan government said that they approved the expansion over the coastal waters of Sahrawi. When they bordered their space, Morocco has already used their sovereign right, especially to this Convention of Maritime Law. Spain has already done so. The legislation says that this is a right that is in several texts, the last one in 2010. As Spain, Morocco considers that the borders can lead to contradictions between Morocco and Spain. The international law provides dialogue is the only way of solution. Morocco is standing with the dialogues on the diplomatic front. They will always use this. It will always be the space to solve any contradiction. I want to thank Minister Morita that are tranquilizing for those who had any doubt of how the borders would be set on behalf of Morocco. I'm thinking basically of on our citizens in the Canarian Islands. I think this will put them at ease when they listen that there will be no policies of unilateral actions and that there will be a dialogue to reach common interest decisions. Morocco has begun a legislative process to set borders in their maritime space. This is something that Morocco has the right to in the international legislation that speaks about the sea borders. Specifically, what the Minister Burita has said in this meeting is that there will not be any policy of acts nor unilateral decisions. And I think this is a starting point that is very solid for an exercise where both countries will have to work in the future. They want to limit the waters of the Sahrawi coast. This is a new violation on behalf of the Moroccan government. Therefore, Spain has to be aware that this is a direct consequence of not assuming their political and historical responsibilities, and the culmination of solution of all this. On behalf of Morocco, there will be two new laws of establishing sea borders that may hinder the Spanish sovereignty on the waters that surround the islands of Canarias and might vulnerate international law and resolutions of United Nations. Let's recall where this republic is located. Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. This is a territory in dispute. 84 countries recognize its existence. It's located in Africa on the coast of Atlantic Ocean. It has the borders with Morocco, Algeria, Mauritania. It is integrated by the former Spanish Sahrawi that was annexed by Morocco and Mauritania after they were liberated by Spain. It was always, since 1976, it was occupied by Spanish government. And it has The Sahara Arab Republic controlled the free zone or liberated territories. The economy is not so big. Most of their people subside with fishing. They also have mineral richness, like different types of metals. And they have different types of oil banks. The Sahrawi Arab Republic, Democratic Republic, can't do anything. They try to bring companies to see the oil rigs to see if they can exploit that. They have phosphate resources to the north of the Sahrawi. What are the objectives behind these decrees approved by the Moroccan Congress about putting limits on the sea territory? This is what we're going to tell you about this. Moroccan expansion, now in the Sahrawi's waters. The Parliament of Morocco approved 2 laws. Neither laws are valid because they're not next to the international law, nor validated by the United Nations. This has created some tensions with the Spanish government because they're too near the Canarian Islands. Apparently what they're seeking is to take over the Sahara Western waters. That's why Morocco has tried to put these waters in their territory. This would allow them to exploit those resources illegally. According to what's established by the United Nations, the sovereignty of the country includes the 12 first nautic miles from their seacoast, and then afterwards there can be an exclusive miles up until the 200 nautic miles. The only state that can exploit these would be the Sahrawi people. However, the Moroccan people say that the Sahrawis were a former colony, and that they were entitled to these. And Morocco also says that there are 200 miles, and they incorporate the 350,000 miles. This is much more from their continental platform. With these new regulations, the continental platforms would come together, the Canarian Islands and Morocco. Both want this submarine tropical volcano. This is an old volcano that has a huge resource in tellurium that has a potential of 26,670 tons. The Sahrawi Democratic Republic have said that they will not allow that there's the illegal exploitation of their resources. It's not the fishery nor any type of resources that is under the underwater that belongs to them. Let's check websites. Among those, some recommendations that I would like to offer. This on January 28, near 200,000 refugees of the Sahrawi survive in the camps and forgotten by the world and abandoned by Spain. 200,000 refugees underwent a census in 2017, according to the High Commissioner of United Nations for Refugees. This total includes the refugees that live in the camps. The camp of Sahara has a great number of refugees. It's 50,700, which is 29% of the populations in the southeast of Algeria. The next one is the Ayayun that holds 50,000 refugees, and the next one is the camp of Ausert with 36,400 refugees. Dakhla with 19,500, and the smallest one only has 16,500 refugees. That is 10% of the Sahrawi population. This number is conservative to be strictly used with humanitarian ends in the camps. This is said by the High Commission. After this division, the people found the refugees in many camps, and they're still there. As I was saying, I have more than one recommendation in in this occasion. The first one is brought by rebelion.org. It said, this is written by Luis Portillo Pascal de Riquelme. And it says that regardless of the silence of the Spanish government, Morocco has kept on invading the coasts of the Sahrawi people, and by that fulfilling the agreement with the Spanish government to control the migration in exchange to money and this from Spain and from the European Union. And the Spanish don't say anything about the continuous violations to human rights and to the support of the annexation of the Sahrawi territory by Morocco. The Spanish government is also silent when the Moroccan government takes advantage of the complex situation in Spain, and they extend unilaterally their jurisdiction over territorial sea waters of the Canary Islands and want to take over the Sahrawi sovereign water. Meanwhile, the Spanish government wants to have more copper. The transference of Morocco of 400 euros to the control of migration. The Spanish government is always quiet because they are waiting for the Moroccan government to buy 2 boats for millions of dollars. Let's not forget that Morocco has enough money and technology to control their coasts. And if they don't do so, it's because they want to press and blackmail the Spanish government and the European Union. However, it might be the time to have a second conference of Berlin, because the migrants don't only come from Morocco and the Maghreb, but the sub-Saharan Africa. And now that there's a new leader of the European Union, maybe he could make an effort to change the chip and change the idea that they should not share the burden in 1987. If back then they were able to sit down and agree on the division of the African continent, now there should be no problem to reach an agreement in a civilized manner and speak about these African territories and recover all of the damages that have been done to these countries. Chaos on the network. This is the next recommendation, this article that is titled The Sahrawi, a new assignment for the government. It is written by Miguel Urban. It says that Sahrawi has decided to move. The thing is, will they do it, or for the first time, will the government come with them? The bipartisan has taken over any hope of independence on behalf of the Sahrawi people, because their neighbor, the Morocco, are not willing to give in. However, through these years, the different governments of Spain have given in to the blackmail of Morocco, thinking that the public opinion will forget about the Sahrawi people. For more than 40 years of democracy, there is a new government of coalition that does away with the old practices, and now the government has to stop being a problem and become part of the solution to this political problem in the Sahrawi. These steps could be: 1, recognizing the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic and their delegation in Spain, and offer the Spanish citizenship to the Sahrawi people. That happened with the Sephardis. The impossibility of reaching a pacific solution. Now this would be a hypothetical scenario where the arms would be back. Then if they're going to find responsibilities, maybe they have to find responsibilities among those who have done nothing. And there is still a referendum upcoming, and there are many debts to be paid to these people. Our correspondent, Sergio Rodrigo, from Andalusia, has more information for us. Hi, Sergio. Hi. Well, the Moroccan parliament has offered two options of a law. One, to create a new borderline in the sea and an economic exclusive zone that would clash with the Spanish interests in the Canary Islands, but would also include the territorial waters of the Western Saharawi. Spain, on their behind, says that they are using the international law where they can create 12 miles of coasts and up to 200 exclusive area. However, the problem is that this clashes with the waters of Spain, something that has mobilized the new government, and the people have met with the Alawi. On the other hand, the Saharawi people have showed their reject, because by doing this, they would take over the sovereign waters of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. There is a rejection to this new expansion plan, and they say that it doesn't guarantee peace, and they're exploring new measures. Especially, they demand Spain to be firm with the historical responsibility of the referendum, and that they should accept that the fact is that they have not decolonized the Western Saharawi, where more than 250,000 refugees are still awaiting on the southeast of Algeria to a conflict that is the last one of the last African one, where they hope that the waters are not victims of being taken over by the Moroccan government. Thank you very much for this information. Let's go to a first pause, and then we'll be right back. But don't forget, we have a question that says, the Parliament of Morocco has recently approved two laws that expand their water borders. They take over the waters of the Sahrawi people and they put in problems the Canarian Islands. What is behind all of this? Give us your opinion. I invite you to see how the fight of the Sahrawi people has been for their sovereignty after they were not a colony of the Spanish government. This government the Spanish government took over the Sahrawi, and there were limits that were given to Morocco, some of the part of a river. In 1963, in the zone, there were discovered great resources of phosphate, and that year there was a fight because Morocco took over the Algerian territory. This armed combat involved Spain and United States and France. Between 1964 and 1966, the General Assembly of the United Nations emitted statements saying that there should be a referendum of self-determination. In 1969, there was a summit between Morocco, Sahrawi, and Spain, and they're saying that they were asking Madrid to follow the restrictions of the United Nations. In 1973, there was the Liberation Front, Asagui Alandra, and ever since, they fight for the self-determination of the Sahrawi people. In 1974, the International the Hague Tribunal said that they have no sovereignty on their lands. And because of that, Morocco put settlers on that land. There were by then the Spanish people were forced out of this area, a contradiction of the official statement said that the Spanish would respect the human rights of Sahrawi. But then Morocco took over Sahrawi, and there was an Arab republic, and this broke relationships between the countries. In 1979, Mauritania signed the peace with this, but Morocco wanted to annex more land to them. And they asked the African Union to find a solution. The next year, Morocco began the construction of a wall in the Sahrawi territory that is called the Wall of Shame. In 1981, in the summit of the African Union, the King Sahrawi accepted a new proposal, and then the visit of Alexander Haig, American representative, allowed for 3 American bases to be established there. Then there was Morocco. In 1988, the Council of Security of the United Nations adopted a decision saying that there would be a referendum of self-determination. In 1991, there was a peace process pushed by United Nations, and there was going to be a referendum. In 1997, there was a signing of agreements of Houston, and they tried to launch this referendum one more time. 1 year later, Mohammed VI took over the kingdom, and he presented many options. In 2001, United Nations took over the possibilities of an autonomy under the Moroccan administration as part of the Baker Plan. The next year, Kofi Annan proposed the division of the Sahrawi territory. In 2012, they proposed a referendum that would be done not before 4 years and not after 5 years. There was also an interest in this plan, and after a year of negotiation, the plan did not work, and Baker resigned. So for this analysis, we're going to talk with a Sahrawi journalist from Spain and another one from Chile. He's a former UN member. Bashir, how can we interpret this new act of Morocco that is in the context of the expropriation that by law belongs to the Sahrawi people? Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. Well, Morocco has a great problem. The great problem it has, apart from the internal problems it has, social problems, cultural problems, etc., the great problem is the Sahrawi issue. The Sahara, Morocco, is an occupying country. This is well known by the international community. And who administers this is Spain. This has to be very clear, because everybody is saying what they're trying to do is look away and let the Sahrawi topic, just the Sahrawi issue, just not even deal with it. For these last 45 years, I see like a big smoke curtain, because Morocco, along with Spain in 1975, with the Green March, and I think this movement of claiming the waters is a new smoke curtain. Morocco knows that unilaterally they cannot claim those waters. What do I think Morocco is doing? I think what Morocco is doing And in this move that Morocco has done, everything has worked for them in the past using Spain. So Morocco asks more miles of the territorial waters that theoretically belongs to them, because they have made two new laws. But it's important to bear in mind that they are unilateral laws, and we're speaking of international waters. So therefore, Morocco has tried to create a conflict with Spain. Why? Because on the Saharaui coast are the Canary Islands, as everybody knows. So the Canary Islands, they have the right, the economic zone that is the 12 miles out of the Sot. And if we see carefully this map, we can see that the Canary Islands are not in front of Morocco. They are in front of the Western Sahara. So Morocco has demanded that there be this an ownership on this. Well, this is not on the behalf of the Spanish government, because they're still too mild. But the Canarias government has reclaimed this, because they say no. Where are we going to lose the Canary Islands? Because they're going to be affected by a pigeon. But it's important to think that Morocco, that according to them, this is part of the Moroccan territory. So now, Bashir, I want to add to the territory Francisco. He's a former UN employee with a lot of information about the Middle East. Based on what Bashir said some minutes ago, how can we interpret this mildness of the Spanish government, although the problem is very serious? Well, excellent. Your excellent historical timeline was perfect. And the location, everything that my Spanish colleague said was very good. However, I ask another thing. Morocco has conflict with Spain, and what they do is they ignore this topic, that is the independence. And so, of course, the Morocco generate this is the European community. When we speak of Spain, Spain is member of the European community. So with that point of view, that expands from Morocco, Spain, and the European community. But the independence of the Sahrawi community seems to be minimized. This is strategic. So what your summary also includes the right to the Sahrawi people that are recognized by 80 countries. However, the international system nowadays is very much more weak than back in 1980. Everything seems to indicate that the Spanish discourse is not as solid to reclaim something that belongs to them as the Canary Islands. They're really not looking into it. They really don't hear what's going on. They succumb to what Morocco asks. How would you evaluate this? Well, the topic is a central After the Cold War, the system became weak. Before, there was some type of link that tried to maintain the balance. And they had a strategic weight in the geopolitical dispute. Now that doesn't exist. Now there's a total disorder. And which, as you say, Spain really doesn't care and looks the other way. And they don't even think that this country exists. This is the fundamental problem, because the multilateralism doesn't make that this is a three-way discussion, and then in the practice it becomes a bilateral affair between Morocco and Spain. Morocco is a country that threatens Europe with terrorists. Not officially the government, but the terrorist corporations are there. They come from there. Most of the terrorists come there. So Morocco is a place that causes instability because they produce terrorists that the government doesn't control. So I don't know, maybe this is part of their strategy. But for me, Morocco has an international debt that, as the colleague said, they have internal problems. And these are not dealt with internally. And this has this duality of not controlling the terrorist activists that coming in out of Spain. Okay, now let's go to Bashir. Do you think that there would be some hope if the new government of Spain, led by Sánchez Cantejón, and now that's more progressive, that would allow a new three-way conversation, as Francisco suggests in his intervention, where there would also be the participation of the Saharaui people to debate this conflict. And in this way, such as we read before in one of the recommendations, we can make justice on these people that with whom the debt is very big on behalf of the Spanish government. Well, this would be, I think that the current situation is interesting because not only because of the policy of the Socialist Party of Spain, that for these all of these years, ever since Felipe González, they have been a treaty one after another towards the Saharaui people. What I'm saying is that it might be interesting because in Spain there is a coalition government with Spain and the women's movement. Unidas Podemos, in their political plan, they said that they had the recognition of the Saharaui people in finding a solution for the Saharaui people. Now we must see if they still defend this posture. What we need on our behalf is that we can't still say what will happen. What will happen, because we've seen it, is because it's just the fact of taking over this. Then they send a foreign affairs minister, Arrabal, and in their meetings with all of us, the topic of the Sahara is not dealt with in extension. It's very easy, yes, well, Spanish can't say anything. The topic of the Sahara is a topic that is in the United Nations and that we can wait until to see what the United Nations says. Every country can say this except for Spain, because as I said, Spain is the administrative wallet that pays for many of this. And of course, in the international contest, Spain has lots to say, and all of the countries. And this is important to know so they can make one decision or the other. But what we've seen up until now is that Spain has become she has liberated herself from the political points of view from Spain. And we saw interesting things happen. Spain and Turkey are now almost best friends after the agreements that were signed, not amongst each other, but among third parties. And some say this is exaggerated because Sahara is not part of the Spanish territory. So therefore, the Sahrawis create a great doubt. The only thing. We have always said that we must have this focal point so we can think that Spain can do something. Although I personally think, and going after history, which speaks of the year 47 and 48, I do not see that intention to reinforce what I'm saying. We are in January. January hasn't ended yet, and now we see the Canarian Islands with 600 immigrants. That is totally irregular, and this is controlled by Morocco as a main of pressure over Spain. And just like it happened before, Norway is exporting airports. But when we see the terrorist acts in any part of the world, whoever carried them out are Morocco. So I don't think that the Morocco services may not have paid attention to see who is leaving this behind. So Morocco is pressing Spain, and behind all of this is the topic of the waters of the. So Morocco is pressing Spain, so Spain could always be fearless, and that way they can work more on their Sahrawi problem. I hope people understand that these waters don't not only depend on a certain group, but they are everybody's richness. And the international community has to find a solution so this conflict of the Sahara ends once for all. This is a case of decolonization, and a case it is possible to make a will respected. But Sahara is the example we are seeing now. And the sovereignty of the Sahrawi people are still at stake. Thank you very much to both of my guests. Up until next time. Let's go to our pause. And let's not forget that there's one strategic play with which you can participate. Let's see what it says. The Parliament of Morocco just recently appeared. Yeah, we saw this. What is all behind all of this, of the expansionist movement? At the end of the pause, let's speak about this particular affair. We'll be right back with our next guest. Now let's analyze what are the geopolitical interests in this conflict between Morocco and Spain. Who else is also looking into this conflict, trying to get anything good for themselves? Let's analyze this. The Maghreb is located in the northeast of Africa. That is, the countries that are covered by the Mediterranean Sea and is covered by the Saharan Desert. There have been many intermissions in the international policy, and the Morocco Empire wants to be the main authority and has been used to start wars between their neighbors. The imperial powers have also collaborated with Morocco, giving them weapons and training, and also supporting them internationally in decisions in favor of Morocco. The United States and France have decided to have control of the gas income of Algeria, while Morocco is interested for strategic interest because they control the Gibraltar Strait and therefore the entrance to the in the zone of Sayalhambra. There are the phosphate resources that are the biggest one in the world. The mines of Pucra that makes the region in the fourth producer of phosphate, just behind Russia, Morocco, and United States. The sea platform is currently under war because the fish bank is the largest one in Europe and the north of Africa. About this, we're going to speak up with Carlos Rodriguez. He's an expert of social work, and he has worked in the area. Thank you, Carlos. Let's talk about your experience in this brigade. You worked in the Saharaui people. Thank you, Ray, for your invitation. I am very pleased to be here. I'm very thankful on these spaces that we can talk about that is vital for the self-determination. We always like to investigate with somebody who has experience, a first-hand experience, on how these people live, what is the problem with the refugees. Were you there recently? Can you tell us a little bit about the day-to-day? Well, yes, this is an experience that has marked me very positively. I had the possibilities of being in January 2019 in the refugees camps in Saharaui. I was in Asmar, which is one of the biggest cities that is in these camps. As you already showed everybody, this is in the Tindouf area, that is in the border part, that is part of Algeria. We also had the possibility to be in some of the liberated territories that, as we know, that are conflict zones, and that right now that there is no armed conflict. However, this is a zone that is very delicate. It's poor, and it has an oversight of United Nations. Well, why is it that the press does not say anything about the Polisario front? How do you see it? Well, it's a strong organization. What impressed me was the participation of women. They say that among most of the women, and part of these women, are in the battlefront, confronting the Morocco Empire, and the women had a fundamental role in the organization of the camps. So from education, health, organization, everything was developed by the women. So there is a great respect, and the women's role is very well appraised in the Saharaui community. and we must learn a lot from that. But in general, they're very much organized. We know that the resources are always slim, and how to organize water and the food. And that is something that they have it very well structured. And regardless of the great limitation they have, the service always reaches at the moment that has been planned, and thus in front of confronting these strong situations, they can still have the guarantee of having a life, at least surviving with the minimum. Of course, their aspiration of those people is to go back to the occupied territories and to go back to the liberated territories, but that right now are kept they cannot go there. As a Venezuelan, a country that is also under siege, well, we're blocked. What are the parallelism that you can establish between these two countries? Obviously, with the historic difference and the different context that both countries have. Well, yes, it's obvious that there is an anti-imperialistic position of both countries. We see how now they're being hit by the Morocco and other sharks that are just roaming around France, United States, just like Latin America. And now we're even blocked. So there are many similitudes. So it's important to speak about the courage that President Hugo Chavez had, and along with President Mohamed Abdelaziz in signing an agreement where there were going to be public works to have drinking water. And in the midst of 2019, we were informed that these huge drills were on the way to Algeria, and they were going to be taken through the liberated territories. So we were breaking a double blockade by passing through with these drills to bring forward drinking water.
Bloquean el desarrollo de esta política social internacional, además.
Entonces, que esto deja una lección.
This leaves us a lesson.
Se complementan, se solidarizan entre sí.
So even those people, those countries that are blocked can have solidarity among them. Well, yeah, it's true, because there was a delegation from Venezuela, from here, and they were there in the Saharaui Republic making the installations with Venezuelan engineers to train the Saharaui people to learn how to manipulate these drills and see how and guarantee the supply of running water in these liberated zones. Well, you spoke of other sharks that are roaming around the Republic, the Saharaui Republic. You said France as an example.
Muy ilustrativo, digamos, de estos, dígase, tiburones, más allá.
Beyond Morocco, but you also said that Europe, to a long tradition of occupation, not only the Sahrawi people, but of other vast territories of the African continent. Well, yes, it's true. I think that it's called to my attention that all of these countries come about when there is more money from Morocco for military purposes.
se planteó la
And there
actualización
was
del conjunto
the
de
need
aviones.
to have more
Entonces,
airplanes.
esto, digamos, si por un lado,
So
por vía comunicacional
if it was possible
y de alguna u otra forma abierta, se
to
plantea
have
la
communication in
ampliación
an
de
open
ese
way,
mar territorial
there was
y
the
por otro
territorial
lado,
sea, and on the other hand,
se sigue profundizando la carrera armamentista de Marruecos. Por supuesto
there
que
is
esto
this
nos da
armed
un
race of
bagaje. Si
Morocco.
nosotros
Of course,
revisamos
this gives
además
us a
partes de las declaraciones del compañero secretario del Frente
background
Polisario,
of
Brahim
the
Ghali, en la cual en el Congreso, en el 15º
of
Congreso
in
que
this
se desarrolló en
summit
diciembre,
that was held in
una de las cosas que
December, one of
planteó y
the things
que
that he
quedó
was
plasmada en
saying
el Congreso es que todas las opciones
is that
están
all
puestas
of the
sobre la mesa,
options
en
are
este
on the
caso para el pueblo
table
saharaui.
by
Para
the Sahrawi
nosotros,
people.
como
So
venezolanos, como
for us
internacionalistas y como
as
solidarios con el pueblo saharaui, los
as
acompañamos en las decisiones
Venezuelans,
que ellos tomen.
we will
Pero
go
además,
along with the
para
decisions
ello,
they make.
es vital
But for that,
mantener
it's
la
basic,
vía
it's
democrática,
fundamental
la
to
vía
keep
pacífica en forma
the
de resolución de
fundamental
conflictos,
and
pero
democratic
dejando también la
ways,
posibilidad
but also
de
opening the possibility
de otros canales, de otras
of
vías para la
other
resolución de
channels
esos problemas. Es decir, si hay algo
to
en lo que ellos
solve
están
these
determinados
conflicts. So if there's
es en la
something that they're determined
consecución
on,
de su soberanía
is in
en el marco del
obtaining their
territorio.
sovereignty.
Carlos, muchas
Carlos,
gracias
thank
por
you
haberte
very
llegado
much
a los estudios
for
centrales de Telesur para
coming
dialogar
here
con
to
nosotros sobre
Telesur
la causa
and
saharaui.
speaking about the
Gracias.
Sahrawi
Gracias a ustedes por la invitación.
topic.
Vamos a conclusión.
Let's go to our conclusions.
¿Qué implicaciones tendrá esta nueva
Implications
arremetida de
of this
Marruecos
new
contra el pueblo saharaui
attack
en la
of Morocco
geopolítica
against the
africana,
Sahrawi
donde muy
people,
pocas deudas quedan
where
en materia de colonización?
there is
Falta recordarse.
still
Pero algo nos va
problems
quedando claro.
on the
Con
front,
esta
but something
patente
is
de
clear.
corso autoconcedida por el reino, no solo Rabat
It's
se
not
verá
only
obligado al
Rabat
agua.
that will
Eso
take the
explica el
Sahrawi
silencio cómplice de
Republic.
unos
This
y el
this
agresivo
justifies the
pronunciamiento de
silence of
otros. Por hoy
ones.
cerramos el tablero.
For today, this is about it.